imposed from the state or the local district of the school. Rather, it should shift to an individual responsibility by the family who can still decide that their child can wear a mask if needed.
Man, that is just extraordinary.
Fuck Joe Biden.
I'm not for gulags for my political
Fuck Kamala
opponents.
Harris.
I don't know what you do
Fuck
with
BLM.
someone like her. I mean, that is profoundly evil.
Fuck
she has been pushing mandates. She has been pushing masks. The idea that everyone has to wear them. Now she's saying you can wear too, and they shouldn't have to do it. Also, the science has changed. No, the science hasn't changed. And this idea that suddenly, oh, now we know that the vaccines work on Omicron. 2 weeks ago, they were telling us it didn't work on Omicron, and that's why everybody was getting COVID over Christmas and New Year's and everything else. So now here's the compilation of her saying completely the opposite over the past 2 years.
One other thing that we're seeing now, and I think this is a response to the rise of Delta, is more willingness among governmental authorities and others to mandate the vaccine. We saw that yesterday the VA said it's going to require the vaccine for its employees. We saw the mayor of New York, the governor of California. Do you anticipate seeing more in this vein, more requirements?
Yes, and it cannot come soon enough. You can remain unvaccinated if you so choose, but if you want to be in public and potentially could be infecting others with a dangerous and sometimes fatal disease that's highly transmissible, then there's an obligation of society. I mean, I think you could have it opt out the way that France, for example, or Italy and other countries are doing, saying that if you want to be in bars, restaurants, movie theaters, etc., either be vaccinated or have proof of a recent negative test. I hope that we move in that direction as a country here, because at the end of the day, I don't really understand why people have the choice to be infecting our vulnerable children or immunocompromised people, or even others who have taken the responsible choice to get vaccinated. Sure, and I just first want to clarify that I was opposed to the CDC back in May when they lifted the indoor mask requirement. I thought that the honor code was never going to work, that when vaccinated and unvaccinated people are mixing, unless there is proof of vaccination, everybody should still be wearing masks. And so I actually support what the CDC is now doing, which is going back to this indoor mask requirement, because frankly, we know that we can't trust the unvaccinated, that they have been walking around without masks. And in fact, that's what led to the surge that we're seeing. Vaccine is the ticket back to pre-pandemic life. And the window to do that is really narrowing. I mean, you were mentioning, Chris, about how all these states are reopening. They're reopening at 100%. And we have a very narrow window to tie reopening policy to vaccination status. Because otherwise, if everything is reopened, then what's the carrot going to be? How are we going to incentivize people to actually get the vaccine? So that's why I think the CDC and the Biden administration needs to come out a lot bolder and say, if you're vaccinated, you can do all these things. Here are all these freedoms that you have. Because otherwise, people are going to go out and enjoy these freedoms.
Fuck these people. Sheba, who's there? Who's there?
Talk about the future and not the past. Talk about the future and not the past. We got this story from Texas Tribune. Capitol Police dismiss Texas Congressman Troy Nehls' accusation that he's been illegally investigated. This is very interesting. So we have this tweet from Troy Nehls where he says that he was, his office, I think it was the 20th of November last year, was broken into illegally by Capitol Police special agents who photographed legislative materials that are protected in the Constitution. What is the provision? The speech and debate clause. And they were photographing it. Came back a few days later and interrogated one of his staff members over what the photo was. Here's what gets interesting, and that's a very, very bold and terrifying accusation that Capitol Police have expanded into an intelligence agency and are going after critics of the January 6th committee, as is Troy Nehls. Now, the Capitol Police came out with a statement saying, we were just doing our job and noticed his door was open. And we decided to see what was going on. And that's all they said. They didn't address the fact that Troy Nehls said they were dressed as construction workers, or that they had photographed privy materials. And the Capitol Police didn't bring that up, which is strange, because the story we have now is Troy Nehls says, Capitol Police broke into my office, violated the Constitution, dressed as construction workers, and interrogated my staff. It's all illegal. And they went, we did go into his office. And it's like, okay, so you're confirming that part of the story. we went in his office.
Was this all at once? Did they interrogate
No, it was
staff
over 2
members
days.
dressed as construction workers?
Apparently,
That
yes.
would be hysterical.
Yeah,
Are you
yes,
serious?
that's what he said.
Oh my
My
gosh,
point
that's
is,
hysterical.
the Capitol Police issued no statement as to whether they were dressed as construction
That's
workers,
insane.
why they were taking photographs. All they've said is a portion of what he said is true.
They didn't deny.
So
it.
So as far as I'm concerned, there's no denial and a partial confirmation that this is happening. This is look, guys, Civil War level stuff. When Capitol Police have expanded into an intelligence agency,
Yeah.
where there is a weaponized political faction, one of them in the country has weaponized law enforcement in this country to go after January 6th defendants get solitary for a year, BLM gets nothing. January 6th,
Yep.
Nancy Pelosi doesn't allow any actual conservatives or Republicans on the committee to actually have a real debate and investigation of what's going on. They empower only their cronies. Adam Kinzinger, who thinks is actually in love with Republicans? It's bipartisan. No, it's not. He hates Trump. He hates all of these people. He smack talks them all day. Liz Cheney, the same thing. They were both just censured by the Republicans. We have one establishment uniparty faction using law enforcement to target anyone who opposes them. This is dark stuff.
I mean, it's actually, I don't know, I see it as sort of indicative of potential, like, you know, blow up of the separation of powers, and I'll explain, right? Like, historically, and if you actually look around the world, most countries don't do the kind of separated legislative executive branch thing. Like, that's not very common in most structures. Most of them have a simple parliamentary system now, right? And that's true even though those parliaments didn't emerge as like the most powerful institution. Like think about England, right? Like it's the king, it's the House of Lords. Now it's literally the House of Commons and the Prime Minister and it's the government.
Well, they still have votes.
And it's like, so this is one of the ways like the Congress sort of expanding its own authority, and in a way, like if the Capitol Police has expanded its own authority and taken a law enforcement role that it doesn't have under our Constitution, then, and you know, you have the January 6th Commission essentially doing like a full-scale prosecution of everybody involved in the Trump thing, except without jail.
Going after they're going after a former president, his staff, media personalities.
It is insane.
Dude.
It is horrible. But one thing Michael Malice says a lot is that the white pill is how stupid our opponents are. And can you imagine you're just doing your job and some Fed dressed as a construction worker comes to you and is like, hey, have you done anything illegal? It's like, who are you? What is this?
Thanks for asking.
Look,
It's such a bizarre strategy.
I certainly think that Michael is right in a variety of ways. They are really dumb people. But stupid people can start fires that go out of control
It's
and
true.
kill a lot of people. So I look at it a couple ways.
We saw that happen for a whole summer.
I think the end result of a lot of this is, things will become more localized. The worst case scenario results in you're going to have your freedoms living in the middle of nowhere. Fractured federal authority means no more ATF coming to your house and shaking you down over your guns or whatever. So it will benefit a lot of regular people in other ways. I think mostly rural living people who already have a lower cost of living and are more personally responsible, have chickens and grow their own food, are certainly going to be better off. Cities are going to be in very serious trouble. But I will say this. Michael Malice also talks about peaceful divorce. Ron Perlman, the actor, Lil Donnie, the mean guy, recently said that Republican states should break away from the rest of us. You see, here's the big point about you can call your opponent stupid. They certainly call both sides call each other stupid.
For sure.
There is no such thing as a peaceful divorce. There is no such thing as the states shaking hands and saying, adios, buddy. Because what people need to understand about the Civil War the first time is that 7 states, and I believe it was 7, I could be wrong, had already seceded from the Union before conflict broke out. But what happens? The Union, the federal government says, hey, you know that military base you got on your property that we paid for? That's a resource that belongs to us and we're not going to let you keep it. And then South Carolina was like, we don't care if you think it's yours. It's in our territory, not yours. So they fight.
Absolutely.
So if there ever was a quote-unquote peaceful divorce, just like we had a partial peaceful divorce before the Civil War kicked off into full-scale warfare, you would have California and Illinois, New York, and they'd be like, we're going to join Canada or whatever. And then all the Republican states would be like, fine, do what you want. And then there would be a pause, and then one state would be like, hey, those nukes you got over there, yeah, we want them. You should be able to have those. And they'd be like, we're keeping them. They'd be like, well, we're the legitimate federal government, we want those back. Well, you can't have them. Fighting breaks out.
Yeah, and I've heard softer versions of it. That won't work either. I mean, I think there's a basic problem here, which is I don't know how you could look at the events of the last 2 to 3 years and think that the left doesn't very much want to govern the right and is not
Exactly.
willing to let the right lead. And
But think about this too. Sorry to interrupt. California's water comes from the Colorado River. So you've got multiple states down there that are dependent on this water. If there was a breaking up of any of these states, you're
Best offers for Super Bowl 56.
Stay hard, y'all. Freedom Truckers, Joe Rogan. Fuck The Rock. He's a pussy.